It's pretty common for me to hear that one of my criticisms for a toy is wrong because that's how it was in the show, so it's accurate, so it's correct. But that doesn't always apply, and that always makes me think of Beast Machines, because we know how inaccurate all those early toys were, but that's because animation takes a lot longer to produce than the actual toys do. Meaning, while Hasbro is still tweaking and reworking the colors and designs, the animators have been stuck with the same thing they were given 6 months ago, leading to a lot of inaccuracies when the designs are still in flux. But that's also how we end up with things like today's offering. This is the Motorcycle Drone, a later Beast Machines toy based on an earlier design that better matches the animation model. So it was Hasbro's answer to all the criticisms, but again, since toys do take a while to make, this was probably well into production before those claims came up. So I think even they were well aware of the problems that the mistimed designing phases actually caused. As you can see, very Cybertronian motorcycle mode, and properly Cybertronian. There's really no semblance of an Earth mode like a lot of things tend to be. There's no cockpit like some Cybertronian jets have. There isn't even a seat for a passenger to ride on. It's literally just a robot shaped up like a motorcycle, which is kind of refreshing in a weird way. Refreshing for like a 14 15-year-old toy now, but I'm actually a fan of it. Like, this is like what it feels like a Cybertronian vehicle mode should look like. It's utilitarian. You pretty much see all the robot mode here, and it still manages to look pretty cool. Like, I like the low profile. I like the huge thrusters on the back. It works for me. Now, of course, there are some design elements that are kind of trademark of Beast Machines Vehicons. We have the visible head and eyes, because this is basically, if they call it a motorcycle drone, but it is basically just a way of giving us a show-accurate thrust without actually giving us a second toy named Thrust. You can see a lot more paint around. There's kind of a maroon plastic and gold paint apps going on, which is a really nice color scheme. You can see there's some fairly intricate paintwork going on, and keep in mind, this is just an old school basic toy, $5 or $7 depending on where you bought it at the time. So yeah, again, toy standards, we're not dealing with modern toy standards here, so let's not get too worked up over it. Also, this was the Battle for the Spark line, which means the Spark Crystal here, displaying a Viacon emblem, is actually going to come into play once we get to robot mode, and we can show off a little bit more of the toy's features. But for now, it is pretty much just your standard, standard. Is pretty much just a Cybertronian motorcycle. Among the other things here, you can see all the heavy molding going into the big thruster engines. I like this shade of plastic because it's a slightly blue shade of metallic plastic, and it really does a good job of looking like like really clean metal. Very cool, and which clean metal is a really good thing in the Viacon line, because that was Megatron's whole thing. You see some suspension molded in, some parts that are familiar for a motorcycle, but for the most part, still maintaining a very alien robotic look. So all around, I'm really big on this vehicle mode. I'm really happy with it. You can also see here in the back, we do have what will become missiles in robot mode, molded up to look like big plumes of exhaust smoke, which I'm not sure a Cybertronian vehicle would produce, but it kind of looks cool. And of course, well, if we can fire off that missile and remove that one, you can display him just fine without it too. And I also say, nice fat wheels means he actually does do a decent job of balancing without any kind of kickstand, though I don't think I go rolling him like across the table or anything, because yeah, he doesn't hold up completely perfectly. Ah well, still, admirable job. He stands up on two wheels. That's about as much as I could ask for when it comes to a motorcycle transformer. Let's get him into robot mode and stand him up on proper legs. Well, because yeah, there are some things here that we do need to address. So we'll go ahead and move these down so we can unclip these panels, which peg in pretty snugly because this is an older toy where engineering was a little bit more robust, so hang in there. Just shift the tire around just to get out of the... There we go. Get that out of the way, and these we can fold up this direction to get them into their correct position. With that, fold out what will become the shoulder, if that wouldn't be stuck. There we go. This also has to unpeg. And at this point, we can start bringing things together a little bit. Man, it's been so long since I transformed some of these. It gets a little bit muddled in my head, but it all gets worked out. Hang on, we gotta... man. I'm getting nervous here. I'm getting nervous trying to transform some of the elements of this toy because it is an older figure, and I'm like really like... I'm a little bit gun shy about transforming it a little bit too harshly. Ah, man, I am not doing well here. No, oh no, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We are good. No, not great, but, you know, we're doing okay. So, bring all these elements together like so. These parts kind of rotate around. They just kind of hang there. Now for the head, you actually have to spin the eyes, the upper half of the head, all the way around. Okay, it's not my cleanest transformation job on camera, but hey, we actually did get all the steps in. So, we do actually have a proper motorcycle drone in his full robot mode. Now for starters, we show him this way because, well, that's thrust, right? Like, we know him as the guy who rolls around on one wheel. He unicycles his entire life. But that's not the best idea for a toy, so Hasbro, in their wisdom, has actually designed actual legs. And this is what would have fixed Revenge of the Fallen Demolisher for me. Just the option of legitimate feet, so he can actually properly stand. It's an amazing, amazing thing. Let me get some little adjustments out of the way here. Man, there's a lot of little wiggle room in this toy. So, I will give you a close-up shot of the head, once I properly align it. It's definitely thrust. Like, there's really no taking that away from the figure. It's just like, well, we can't give you 2 thrusts. Like, who's gonna buy thrust again? So we'll call it a motorcycle drone. We'll charge a lesser price for it, and yeah, you can just pretend whatever it is, whatever you want it to be. And for me, like, I never had the deluxe, so this was always my thrust. As you can see, the robot mode, very alien in design, very lanky, except for these, massive arms. He does match the show model much better than the original deluxe did, and he does carry that very strange Beast Machines aesthetic. It kind of works and kind of doesn't. This is definitely one of those toys that's going to be up to your own personal preferences. Now, like I said, pretty much everything visible in the vehicle mode makes up the robot modes. So the front struts are now the legs, the thrusters are now the arms, and we really don't have any new details to show off, just details that come together better in this mode. For instance, his claws being represented now, which they were there in vehicle mode, but now you can actually tell what they are and what the purpose is for them. And really not a bad design. Like, engineering wise, he comes together pretty well. Does have a big tire hanging off of his back that you can't really do anything with, but besides that, everything seems to come together okay. Well, okay, you do have like these little pieces of paneling that there's really nothing you can do with. That's as far as they rotate. There's no way to fold them back any farther. But you'll work with what you're given. I don't know. It's a basic size toy. I'm not really going to complain too much for something that costs $5. So, that's pretty much what I can show you for just detail, because, well, you mostly saw it all in the first mode. For articulation, his neck has a ball joint up here as well as one down here, so the neck has a wide range of motion, getting in a lot of different angles. The arms get a bit weird. His shoulders are ball jointed and they're cut outward like this, but there's no forward motion. However, to make up for that, he has a weird bend to his bicep. So his arm does actually naturally bend forward at the expense of not being able to lay it down straight in any way. Kind of weird, but at the very least, it compensates. So you also have a ball joint here in the elbow to give you some rotation, some extra room, as well as a rotation just below that for rotating the arm all the way around. And that does work on both sides in spite of some extra gimmick over here that we're about to get to. The hips, there's no waist articulation, and the hips only go outward a little bit, just like that. And there's no knees, and there's really no ankles. These hinges here are just kind of tight. They have little detents in them that keep them from angling properly, so that's pretty much all you get for stable angle. So as basic toys go, it's fairly, I don't know. I've seen better articulation out of basic class figures in Beast Wars and Beast Machines. So this one is I don't know, a little bit more circumstantial. It's not quite as impressive as his brethren. On the other side, he does have a little bit of gimmick that we can play with. For instance, you do have those missiles that I showed you before. Now when we insert the missile into this arm, you notice how kind of floppy these shells are? Well, if I insert the missile, it all opens up and arms it. Which is, in a way, kind of neat. But at the same time, it's, I don't know. Like, I feel like when you press the spark in order to launch the missile, I feel like that should open it up. Like, doesn't that make more sense? Like a two-stage firing system or something? Instead, this is just, and I don't know. It kind of looks cumbersome. It also doesn't happen on this arm either. If I insert the missile here, see if I can get it angled in right. Nothing happens. It's just there for storage. I don't know. You can close it up. It's just friction holding it in, but it's a little bit odd. And no, of course I won't be firing the missile, because anytime I fire a missile on camera and not paying attention to where it goes, ends up in the past and releases a techno-organic virus that ruins the whole world. It sucks. But, you know, there is another use, because of course, we can leave him in unicycle mode, and we can peg his, misaligned, peg his wheel back together, and then we can tripod him. See? Tripoding as an option, not a requirement. This I can roll with. Literally. Yeah, moving on. So yeah, this has a lot of design elements I like, and I think it handles certain design elements better than even later, much larger toys did. So that is your motorcycle drone from Beast Machines, an attempt at appeasing fans who are looking for a more show-accurate thrust, and I think it did a pretty good job of that. The Beast Machines aesthetic really isn't for everyone, and he's not the best of basic toys, but to give us what Hasbro failed to give us the first time around, I don't think he does such a bad job. I feel he has a really good place in the Beast Machines toy line. Now, just give me a Tankor that's show accurate and actually big enough to be Tankor. I will be happy, because I'm pretty sure if I pull out the Generations version, it might actually be shorter than this guy is.